The Tower of Dreams. Gustave Eiffel's fight for the impossible. Can you imagine Paris without the Eiffel Tower? Today, it is the heartbeat of the city, the most visited monument in the world, and a global symbol of elegance. But when it was first imagined, the tower was not celebrated. It was hated, mocked, attacked, even threatened with demolition. This is not just the story of a building. It is the story of a man, Gustave Eiffel, who dared to dream of the impossible and refused to surrender through ridicule, scandal, and failure. A story that reminds us, every vision that changes the world begins as an idea someone once called ridiculous. The dream nobody believed in 1884. Two young engineers working for Eiffel sketched a radical design, a 300-meter iron tower, twice as tall as any structure in history. At first, Eiffel was unimpressed. It looked like an oversized pylon, ugly and industrial, but he saw potential. Paris was preparing for the 1889 Universal Exhibition, celebrating the centenary of the French Revolution. Every nation would bring its best innovations. France needed something bold, something unforgettable. Eiffel challenged his team. Make it more than iron and bolts. Make it artistic. Make it inspiring. They redesigned the tower with sweeping arches, graceful platforms, and a soaring spire. It would not only break records, it would embody the future. The storm of opposition, but when the design was revealed, Paris erupted in outrage. Architects and artists condemned it. Writers called it a monstrous smokestack and a disgrace to Paris. A petition, signed by some of France's most famous cultural figures, declared the tower an iron nightmare. Rival designers offered alternatives like Jules Bardez's 300-meter stone sun column. Stone, they argued, was noble. Iron was vulgar. Paris deserved beauty, not a factory chimney in its heart. Even residents near the Champ de Mars sued to stop construction, fearing their gardens would be ruined. But Eiffel stood firm, calm, confident. He defended his vision. Do you think the pyramids were loved when they were built? He asked. Every monument shocks before it inspires. When the government hesitated, Eiffel made a daring move. He offered to finance much of the project himself. He would risk his fortune and reputation on the tower's success. The struggle to build the impossible. On January 26, 1887, work began. The challenges were unprecedented. Foundations had to be sunk deep into unstable, waterlogged soil. The iron pieces, 18,000 in total, were forged in Eiffel's workshops, then assembled on site like a giant puzzle. 2 million rivets were hammered in by hand. Workers dangled hundreds of feet above ground with little protection, demanding higher pay for such dangerous labor. At times, strikes threatened to halt the project. The greatest test came when the four massive legs had to meet perfectly at the first platform, 60 meters above ground. If even slightly misaligned, the tower would collapse. Using ingenious hydraulic jacks, Eiffel adjusted the legs millimeter by millimeter. On December 17, 1887, the first platform was completed. The impossible had become reality. 2 years, 2 months, and 5 days after starting, the tower was finished. At 300 meters, it dwarfed every monument on Earth. On March 31, 1889, Eiffel climbed to the summit, raised the French flag, and the world stared in awe. The triumph and the fall, the tower was the star of the Universal Exhibition. Lit by thousands of gas lamps, it dazzled visitors. 2 million people came in the first months. Kings, artists, and even Thomas Edison visited. Eiffel was hailed as a genius. But triumph turned to disaster. The tower had cost over 7 million francs, a fortune. To recover losses, Eiffel invested heavily in the Panama Canal project. When it collapsed in scandal and corruption, Eiffel, though innocent of fraud, was dragged into court. The press mocked him. His reputation was ruined. His company collapsed, and the tower, once celebrated, became a burden. Attendance plummeted. Critics demanded it be demolished once its 20-year permit expired. The man and his masterpiece seemed destined for oblivion. The redemption of the tower. But Eiffel did not give up. He turned his tower into something greater than a monument, a laboratory. He tested wind resistance, aerodynamics, and most importantly supported experiments with a new technology, wireless telegraphy. When the French military needed a place for giant antennas, Eiffel offered the tower. Soon, it was transmitting signals across France, then across Europe, then across the Atlantic. The tower, once dismissed as useless, became essential for national defense and global communication. The city that once wanted to tear it down now declared it untouchable. The tower was saved not by beauty, not by tourism, but by science and innovation. The legacy that endures. Gustave Eiffel never fully escaped the stain of scandal, but his tower became eternal. It stood through 2 world wars, broadcasting radio and television. It became the first image people think of when they imagine Paris. From ridicule to reverence. From threatened demolition to global icon. The Eiffel Tower became proof that vision, persistence, and courage outlast every critic. Today, more than 7 million people climb it every year. Millions more gaze at it from below. And though Eiffel himself died in 1923, his dream continues to rise above the skyline. The lesson of the Iron Lady, the story of the Eiffel Tower, is not just about architecture. It is about the human spirit. Every dream worth chasing will face ridicule. Every bold idea will meet resistance. People will laugh, doubt, and fight against it. But if you stand firm, if you keep building even when the world mocks you, one day the same world will celebrate what it once tried to destroy. Eiffel teaches us that failure is not the end. Scandal, loss, criticism, these are chapters, not conclusions. What matters is persistence. What matters is turning setbacks into opportunities, and vision into reality. The Eiffel Tower was once called a monstrosity. Today, it is a miracle. What changed? Not the tower, but the world's ability to see what Eiffel saw from the beginning. So the next time you doubt your dream, remember this: greatness always begins as the impossible. And sometimes, the very thing the world rejects today will be the thing it cannot live without tomorrow.